We are following breaking news out of college football where Alabama is set to bring back two key pieces on their defense next season. Linebacker Henry To'oTo'o and nose tackle DJ Dale both announced that they will be returning to Tuscaloosa for their senior years. To'oTo'o tallied a team-leading 111 tackles this season, adding 4 sacks, 7.5 tackles for loss. Dale was a commanding presence up front for the Tide, contributing 3 sacks, 2 tackles for loss. The lead in Alabama defense that gave up the 7th fewest yards per game in the nation this past season. Let's welcome in college football writer Dennis Dodd to talk about this. Good news for the Tide, it seems like, Dennis.
Henry To'oTo'o is a tackling machine and has been since his time at Cincinnati. Alabama got a good one in the transfer portal when he came in and immediately started. He had a pretty good game Monday night against Georgia, actually, as well. Obviously, they lost the game, so it doesn't show. And then DJ Dale has been really good since his freshman year. I think he was a freshman All-American on some of those teams. A guy that can collapse the pocket, whether lining up over the center or in the A and B gaps. And so this is a huge head start for an Alabama defense that, again, was supposed to be in a transition year after those 6 first-round draft choices in 20, I think 5 of them on offense. The defense actually showed well for itself this year. Alabama didn't have to necessarily outscore people, and I think they've got a head start now for 2022.
Dennis, you know, when people are looking at mock drafts and stuff like that, excuse me, and some of the guys who declare and some don't, you know, there can be said, oh, I wish they stayed a little bit more, or I wish they went to the draft. And you and I were talking before he came out, and you said Nick Saban is really good at working with his players to make sure they go into the draft at the right time.
Yeah, I've done stories on this where Nick Saban, you can quantify this, does the best job at advising his underclassmen whether to go or whether not to go. In other words, leaving injury out of it, because injury is always a risk for these guys if they come back, that they generally go as seniors, at least where they were projected, and frequently higher than where they were projected, getting more on film. It's as simple as that. So he knows, obviously, NFL sources. He knows general managers. He can pick up the phone and talk to Bill Belichick and say, hey, what do you think? And so these guys listen to them. Annually, Amanda, there are about 30% of juniors that don't get drafted. And that number has stayed about even for the last 7 to 10 years. That's a lot of guys. I think it was last year there were 98 total that came out. 30% of those didn't get drafted. That's a big piece of those. You don't see the Alabama players. They're always well advised.
Why need an agent when you have Nick Saban there looking at the Crimson Tide? I mean, it was my favorite thing you said after the national championship, and you said it before. This was supposed to be a rebuilding year for Alabama, and they still made it to the national championship. They are the favorite right now at plus 200 to go ahead and win the whole thing next year. What are the Crimson Tide, especially with these guys coming back, looking like heading into next season?
Well, they've got the best coach. They've got the best player, Bryce Young, offensively. And they've got the best defensive player, Will Anderson Jr., coming back. And it's, you know, Henry To'oTo'o is not that far behind, although he plays in the middle. They're going to have to find a replacement for Jamison Williams. The depth is going to have to emerge there. Cameron Latu, the tight end, showed well. I did notice that Jaleel Billingsley, the backup tight end, entered the transfer portal. That's going to happen. But Alabama, again, a transition year where there were underclassmen galore. And now they're coming back. A lot of them are going to be favored. I think something you have to look at when those underclassmen are coming back is, you know, some of the injury factors. Can they get injured? But Alabama has, you know, a distinct advantage over everybody else right now. I saw a post about somebody saying, well, is Nick Saban losing it? He's lost 2 of his last 3 national championship games. No, he's not losing it. He's still competing at a high level in the best conference in the country.
Do you want a sports network that delivers everything that matters about the game? The highlights, the picks, the instant analysis, no yelling, no fake debates, no politics. Hit the subscribe button and never miss a moment.